In any membership organization, you want to see people that look like you. I'm a Latina. If I'm a part of something, it's hard to walk in the room and be the only person that looks like me, no matter how successful I get or how much people know me even. So how would I invite them to be a part of RWA is not only are there more people that I hope you could identify with and feel comfortable with here in the room and here as our members, but there are opportunities for leadership in our organization, and you could see them. They're here and they're welcoming, they're mentors, they do everything.
This is Associations Thrive, the podcast celebrating successful associations and their leaders. I'm your host, Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Listen in as top association executives tell all, revealing the creative and innovative ways they're increasing membership, generating revenue, nurturing engagement, and reimagining their organizations. By the way, if you've launched a new initiative, created new member services, or updated your governance structure and are seeing great results, I want to hear your story, and so do my listeners. I'd love to have you as a guest. Go to podcast.matrixgroup.net and apply to be on Associations Thrive. Now let's dive into this week's show. Today, I'm speaking with Laura Caputo, Executive Director of the Romance Writers of America, or RWA. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joanna.
Laura, tell us about RWA.
RWA is the Romance Writers of America. It's a nonprofit trade association. It was founded in 1980 by a group of 37 romance writers, led by Vivian Stevens, a Black romance editor at Dell Publishing, who was championing specifically Black authors. RWA's mission is to advance the professional and common business interests of career-focused romance writers through networking and advocacy, and by increasing public awareness of the genre.
Wow, Laura, how does one define the romance genre? Because I was thinking about this. The website says that it's a billion-dollar industry. So how is it defined?
Specifically, we would say a romance requires there to be a happily ever after or a happy for now.
Ah.
Yes. So that means that if you have a suspense or a mystery thriller with love interests, but it doesn't end in a happily ever after, you can't say it's a romance. Yes, we have plenty of members of RWA who've written those types of stories, written cliffhangers, but technically it's supposed to just be HEA or HFN.
Wait, so I watch a lot of Korean dramas, and many of them are romances, but many of them do not have happy endings. So they're not technically romance shows?
If we're being technical, you are correct. They're not.
Wow. They wreck me because they don't have a happy ending and they don't have a happy for now. Okay, so Laura, how does one get to become a member of RWA?
To be a member of RWA, you can't just be a fan. This is for authors. So you have to be in the pursuit of writing your first novel. You might have written a manuscript already, or you're a published author. We have a couple different types of memberships, and we even have an affiliate membership because we have librarians and institutions that serve romance readers.
Huh. So, Laura, there are many, many genres of writing. Why do the romance writers need their own association?
Well, that's always such a fun question. As you know, there's an association for everything.
I do.
So romance specifically, in 2024, its projected global revenue is $1.35 billion. In ebook sales in 2021, it made up nearly 30% of all ebook sales. If you're a fan of TikTok, there's an entire book talk, and that sells millions of books every year. Just look it up. There's tons of people talking about books, all kinds of crazy stuff on TikTok for book talk. So the revenue is there, the readers are there. And if I recall reading recently that in 2023, romance led all sales of all genres.
Wow. But do romance writers in particular have their own issues that they don't share with other writers? Or are they just such a big genre that they said, we're going to create our own group, create our own party?
RWA is actually part of something called the Authors Coalition of America. And so in the Authors Coalition of America, it's all these different other organizations like the science fiction writers, the screenwriters, all the different types of authors have their own groups. And at RWA, we're focused on educating our writers for their genre in their space. Here's an example from something I did with my team a couple months ago, or really just exemplifying how awesome my marketing team is. But we were talking about the marketing calendar and different, awareness days and things like that. And our marketing lead said, "Hey, I see that it's First Responders Awareness Day." And she says, "Aren't there books about like firemen and policemen and romance novels?" And I said, "You're totally right."
Totally.
So of course we incorporated that in, First Responder Awareness Day, and we're able to include some really great graphics and promoting content, because we also had some webinars where a first responder taught our authors a life in the first responder, writing accurately the experience of an EMT.
Wow.
So it's very targeted and specific to get these stories out there. That's why they need their own space.
Boy, that's amazing. Yeah, who wouldn't want to fall in love with a hunky fireman?
Hey, who loves those calendars? I know I do.
Hey, so before we get into the things that RWA is doing, let's talk about your journey. So you started out as an attorney, was in private practice for a while, and then went on to become an association executive. So how does that happen?
Like many people in the association world, there's no straight line to get here. I am still an attorney. I don't practice actively. It's a very useful framework for the world, I will say that. But I graduated back in 2008 when it was the Great Recession. And what did? I did bankruptcy law. So I helped a whole lot of people with bankruptcy and learned that as a 20-something lawyer, just helping people out. And honestly, I knew what burnout was before most people out there, because helping people through tough situations can drain you. So after probably about almost 8 years of helping people through bankruptcy, I said, I think I need a break. And so I had my son and I was ready to get back to work and do something different. And I have always been a big proponent of networking. And also, I've always loved conferences. So I went to the American Bar Association's tech show in Chicago. I was living in Chicago. And I met somebody there. We hit it off. I was going to work at a startup. That didn't work out. They got acquired. And then he called me a couple months later and he says, "I'm going to be association CEO of the Turnaround Management Association. I want you to be chief of staff." And I said, "I don't know what that means, but I'm in. Sign me up."
Wow.
So as far as how did I get into the association world, it was a happy accident and a result of conference networking. And I loved it. I feel like it's more of a boomerang for me. Back in college, I worked briefly for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, which is a nonprofit in DC, serving Latinos and fellowships and education, all kinds of wonderful programs. And so, I spent years away from nonprofits and came back. And after several years of learning the ropes through TMA, which was a great opportunity, I'm now with an association management company and ED now of RWA.
Laura, how do you prepare for a career in the association world when you didn't have training and all of a sudden you're chief of staff? So how do you build up those skills and what was important in that journey?
It's a great question, because when you, or at least for me as an attorney, I'm always thinking about risk and I'm looking at things way down the road. And I love planning and keeping things organized. And I feel like there's so many different aspects of what I learned as a lawyer that I do apply to everything I do. The easy thing for me when I started with the TMA was that many of their members were attorneys or are attorneys, so I could identify with the membership in that way. So I understood some of their challenges because it's turnaround, so it's bankruptcy. As far as how I use these things every day with RWA, one, got to be organized. You have a lot of different plates spinning at the same time. And my experience with associations has been more smaller organizations, so everybody does a lot of everything. You have to be ready to put on all types of different hats. And as a lawyer, and especially in bankruptcy, I was dipping into all different types of subject matter all the time. So it was that, I worked with small business owners, and so I would learn about their little retail sales or a hairdresser, and then she has children and she has property. So it's just thinking about all these different areas and how they all work together. And specifically with associations, it's doing it with limited resources. So doing as much as you can with a little bit, which I get that with bankruptcy too. It's weird. Nobody would ever think this is a good parallel, but it's worked for me. And I'm very happy with how I can cross over these skills.
Well, it's actually an interesting transition or journey because as an attorney, you went to work for an association serving attorneys. So it was kind of a nice gateway. And in the process, got introduced to associations and how they're run. And so now you're taking that experience and running another association. So I totally see it. Let's talk about RWA. So they brought you on during some challenging circumstances that you're willing to speak with us about. So tell us about that.
Thank you, Joanna. This is true. So I'm going to try to keep it short. It's a long story. But what I can say it starts with is that RWA got canceled over the last several years, whether it's people, organizations, big missteps by many different people, organizations, and they get canceled. With RWA, their problem was, of the many, was inclusivity. This was an organization that excluded, and it did not make people feel welcome, to be honest. So if you look up RWA and you look up Controversy or 2019, 2021, go for it. They're fascinating drama-filled articles. I even heard of the whole board resigned on Christmas Eve. Like, it's that kind of drama. It was,
wow.
Yeah, wild. So as an organization, people making these decisions, it hurts the organization. You lose members and you hurt people, and nobody wants to be a part of that. So RWA used to have many more members than it does today. What I know from speaking with its leaders that has stayed on through the controversy, they had around 10,000 members before, and now they're down to 2,500.
Ooh.
But over the past couple years, since all of these things happened, it's been going through its own ongoing transformation. It's been giving training to all of the leaders. Everybody takes DEI training and quizzes at the chapter level, the board level, obviously. It's teaching the authors. We have sensitivity readers, alpha readers, beta readers, all these different types of opportunities for authors to learn how to more authentically represent different people, whether it's gender, culture, ethnicity, all these different opportunities for RWA to be better and more inclusive and more representative of who we all are today.
Wow, Laura, you just shared a whole lot there. Let's unpack it a little bit. So there was a controversy with the association, and the accusation was that RWA was not inclusive. Not inclusive as in terms of members or individuals who are being accepted into membership or leadership, or was it how members were portraying different types of people in their books? So what was the controversy?
As far as I know, it was that Black authors specifically were feeling excluded. There were awards and times, like you could read the stories, is that there were Black authors who weren't feeling included. And so that's what RWA has been taking steps over the years to remedy those issues. As I mentioned, I work for an association management company. Previous to our AMC taking over management operations, they did have a staff. And so just last year, my team and I took over in September of 2023. So this was a really challenging time because you go from staff that the members know to this whole new team. And, we feel like the villain in their story. So I'm just being honest. I love being honest. If you know me, I'm an honest person. We can feel like the villain in the story sometimes, but I'm very fortunate that just in the past almost 6 months now that we've been working with them, I've been getting messages from members like, you all are doing an amazing job. We're so happy for the changes that you all are making. So it makes us proud that we can be a part of this evolution in RWA, what we hope is a long and continuing history.
Wow. So Laura, how do you rebuild from a crisis like that? It sounds like there was press. It sounds like the board resigned, then the staff basically got let go because the organization moved to an association management company. The first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you, as the new staff, build trust with the membership so that they trust you to kind of shepherd this organization into its next phase?
That's a fabulous question, because the leaders that have stuck through this, or the new leaders that came about after, all of the things happened in 2019 and 2021, they'll even say that they have a trauma response to what happened. So for them to trust us, it can be tough. The new board at RWA is more diverse, number one. So they have a more diverse and inclusive board. And as I mentioned, everybody gets DEI training, and they're always asking questions. They're always asking what they can do to make sure things are inclusive. The little things, even right now, we receive pitches from authors for we have a digital magazine. Anybody can contribute to it, not just members. And so part of updating that survey of receiving these submissions, it says, please be sure to include inclusive languages in all your submissions. They want to make sure that when people are writing inside our magazines, that they're including everybody and they're not going to make others feel excluded, because that's who we are as now and the future RWA has to be inclusive.
Laura, if I'm a Black author and I'm thinking about membership, or you're pitching membership to me, and I say to you, what's changed about RWA that I should now join? What do you say?
In any membership organization, you want to see people that look like you. I'm a Latina. If I'm a part of something, it's hard to walk in the room and be the only person that looks like me, no matter how successful I get or how much people know me even. So how would I invite them to be a part of RWA is not only are there more people that I hope you could identify with and feel comfortable with here in the room and here as our members, but there are opportunities for leadership in our organization, and you could see them. They're here and they're welcoming, they're mentors, they do everything. I'm really proud of the board that I get to work with because they do a lot. I've worked with several different organizations and boards, and this one really rolls up their sleeves.
So I guess another question that I would have is RWA has chapters. And when you hear about problems with inclusion and you have a decentralized organization, how do you make sure that this new inclusivity really goes down to all levels of the organization, including and especially the chapters where presumably a lot of the members are really interacting because they're there at the local level?
Yeah, that is tough for any organization that has chapters. At RWA, we have like local regional type of chapters, but we also have online chapters devoted to subgenres specifically. So like we have a Kiss of Death chapter. We have historical romance chapters. We have chapters just devoted to these types of things. But otherwise, then we have the Dallas area romance writers. They are in Dallas area. So, we have the mix. As part of their chapter affiliation, there are requirements and things that they have to do for DEIA training. As my team has come on board, there's best practices and things that we're going to be incorporating into the future of RWA to make sure that not only do all members of RWA know that they have the opportunity to join chapters, because right now only 50% of RWA members are chapter members as well, because they are separate independent nonprofits. We want them to know that there's an opportunity for them to do something either within their own subgenre or within their locality if they're close to, a more physically located regional chapter.
So it's one thing to focus on the culture, but members also need to feel like there are great member benefits that RWA can offer them. So what's new and different to encourage people to join and stay in the organization?
Right now, our next program is our traditional author weekend. We just finished a very successful indie author weekend. I'm proud of this. I'm going to brag on this one, is that previous to my team coming on, our first round, they did the indie author weekend was only 77 attendees, whereas now I think it was over 260 this year with my team, and all the feedback has been fantastic. We had a lot of fun doing this virtual event, and as virtual events, a lot of people have talked about declining attendance to virtual events. We had that huge jump and really engaged attendees.
Nice.
Because one thing I didn't really mention about RWA is that our membership really is a large spectrum in that it includes people who've never, they're in the process of writing their first novel or first manuscript and they haven't done it yet, versus the well-established authors with like 50 books. So when you have that kind of range, you want to make sure that you're meeting people at the different places on their journeys so that this is still a good place for them to be. Independent authorship specifically has grown exponentially because of, Kindle and all these different self-publishing platforms. So many people are independent publishing, and Previously, RWA was more catered to more traditionally published authors.
Help us define this. So what's the difference between an indie author and a traditional author?
Yes. So indie author, you are self-publishing your stuff. So you are writing your book, you are putting it into the Kindle store yourself, versus a traditionally published author, meaning you probably got an agent or you submitted a manuscript to Harlequin and they picked it up and they're going to market you and things like that. That's the traditional side. It's published by a big publishing house versus independent. You are the be-all, end-all of getting this first book out there. And that style of writing, like I said, that form of getting books out has exploded just in the past, I don't know how many years at this point.
Wow. You're doing some other things too. I noticed that you've got forums. So tell us about those. Is that a big member benefit?
Yes, absolutely. Our authors, so because it's authors, they love writing. So that's one thing that's pretty funny for me working with different groups is that sometimes you can work with a group and have a community and it's crickets and nobody really gets involved and engaged.
Yes.
Authors want to engage with one another. Many authors work from home. They write while their kids are at school, so by having the forum, they can ask questions to their peers and everybody is very open and willing to give advice. So we have incredibly active forums. I can't even tell you how many subgroups of our forum we have right now because of not only the subgenres, not only the chapters, but all our different committees. Everybody's on there. And we also have these programs. There's pen to paper and paper to polished. So it helps authors go from pen from the beginning to write their first manuscript. They work with guides that help them develop that. And then paper to polished is taking that manuscript, getting it edited so that either you self-publish it or you submit it for traditional publication. So they also have their own forums. They're incredibly active as well because they're all giving each other critiques and meeting, and they do these things called writing sprints where they just get on Zoom and they challenge each other to put so many words on a paper. They don't even have to talk. They're just there.
Wow.
And they write. It's an incredibly active community.
Laura, is AI affecting the association or the profession itself? What's AI doing to the profession of being a romance writer?
So this is something that I have to be very careful when I talk about. I don't want the authors to stone me or so AI, when our members and leaders and speakers talk about it, they have to be incredibly careful because not everybody's using it. And for those that are using it, they're using it in different ways.
Sure.
So we can't say that there are not people that are just using AI to write stories for them because those people exist. There are people that do that. There are people that just use AI to help them start writing. They might use it for an outline. Or there could be people that just say, I don't like writing a fight scene. AI, help me write a fight scene.
Oh, interesting.
People use it for different reasons in different ways. It's there. And it's a controversy because the biggest controversy, I think that you might have seen this on our website, is that AI is being trained with authors' content.
Yes.
And they didn't give permission for their content to be used to train AI. If you go to our website, there is a link and that you can look up, was your book used to train X AI's software?
Oh.
Many of our authors are finding their books fed in there. And obviously they're not happy about that. They're not getting any royalties. They're not getting anything out of it, but their intellectual property is using to train these things.
Let me make sure I understand. So it's very threatening for an author to have an AI be trained on their writing and their writing style because they've honed their craft. And so now maybe with the help of AI, somebody can write in the style of Laura Caputo or write in the style of a Joanna Pineda. And that can be very threatening.
Yes, that happens a lot. One of the ways that I know there's also it being used in AI, which I thought was really interesting. So in the artwork, for covers, for books and things like that. If you want your cover art to look a certain way, if you want a man to turn into a wolf and then you need two women of various ethnicities, these are all the different combinations and things that with the push of a button that authors are able to request from these different AI software to generate these types of covers. This impacts artists in many ways. So this is a whole separate conversation.
Right.
But yes, people are using AI in different ways, and it absolutely is impactful to RWA and its authors.
Wow. So, Laura, it sounds like AI is kind of a big deal in your industry because it potentially is changing how writers can write. It's dividing the members maybe over how to write a romance novel, but also there are some maybe legal and regulatory issues regarding AIs being trained on the style of your author. So how do you navigate this environment? What are you doing in this area?
So we are lucky that RWA is part of the Authors Coalition of America. The Authors Coalition of America includes a number of different writers' organizations, the Mystery Writers of America, the Authors Guild, the Horror Writers Association, press photographers, all these different groups. And being a member means we have attorneys that are following policy for us to make sure that decisions are not being made in government that would negatively impact our membership. RWA regularly contributes to amicus briefs. We help pay the lawyers to come and chime in and say how we feel on various policies that are changing in the world right now with AI.
Laura, what are you looking forward to in 2024 with RWA?
As you know, RWA has been going through so much change over years and months, whether it's the management structure, all these different things. And what I hope to do with my team is that I hope that just by the end of this year, that the members feel confident that RWA is a place that they belong, that they're proud of the benefits it offers, and that they want to tell their friends to join because it's good for them. I mean, there is a lot of competition for authors to get together, to learn from one another. There's all types of different forums and private organizations and companies that do this, but RWA has been around since 1980. And this community has been here, it's established, and it wants to do better. And it's every day they're trying to do better. I hope that I could be part of that and that positive outcome.
What a great goal, Laura. I want to thank you for everything you've shared today. Cautionary tale for some execs and really a lot of lessons learned that you've shared with us. Amazing. I hope you'll come back because I know you're going to have a great 24 and we want to hear about all the things that you did to make it happen. Thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thanks for listening to Associations Thrive. We're so glad to have you here. You know, my personal mission and the mission of my company, Matrix Group International, is to help associations and nonprofits increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. I want to hear stories of how your organization is thriving in today's challenging landscape. Please apply to be on my show by going to podcast.matrixgroup.net. By the way, do you need help with a digital initiative? Maybe it's a website redesign, a new membership database, or a hybrid meeting that you're planning. I'd love to connect with you. Please visit the Matrix Group website at matrixgroup.net. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Associations Thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating, post a comment, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Bye!